Hello everybody, my name is Anion, and today I'm going to do my best to explain the tools used in doing menu buffers in Final Fantasy IX, how I have it set up, which isn't the end all be all, but it is a good base point to start with, as well as rough estimates of positioning to do said skips, and rough estimates of how many buffers you need to do said skips. Firstly, we're going to talk about the program that we use to do this, called Joy to Key. It is a free program. There is an option to pay for it, but it is free to do. And right now, I have three joysticks set up. The first one is just taking care of turbo, but I have this joystick set up to where when I hold the right trigger, let me click on the menu here. When I hold the right trigger, it says use joystick number 3. And joystick number 3 has my menu and my cancel buttons to triggering 30 times per second. What you have to do though is you have to go into your processing speeds over here in the preferences and do double processing speed, because doing it at 30 hertz is not going to be as consistent as going the 60 hertz route. Doing it at 60 hertz is pretty much guaranteed, minus a couple of things, and we'll get into that. But bind the menu key with the menu key that corresponds on the keyboard. That one's here. Then the cancel key with the one also that corresponds on the keyboard. And I have it bound to Y and A on my Xbox controller, respectively. You just click edit button assignment, choose the key, auto repeat how many times per second. It's pretty intuitive once you get into it and start messing around with it. But that's how I have it set up. You can do it any number of ways. You can have them all turboed at the beginning, but it might mess with your menus later on in the game. So let's get into the game and actually start working on our buffers. So this is the first skip in the game, and arguably the most important. You skip between 8 or 9 minutes on this alone. The important thing is to get your positioning right. If you step just a little bit too far, just like that, you're going to be forced into the encounter. You're going to have to reset your game like I'm doing. And when that happens, you're wasting around 20 seconds of time. 20 seconds of time for every time you screw it up. So naturally, you want to get it right the first time. And this takes practicing, so you get to know. There's two kind of schools of thought on doing it. You can either be conservative, like I like to be, where I start like right here. And based on my config that I showed you, I would tap the left trigger. And when you're doing the cancel, you need to roll your fingers. You don't press them at the same time because you will inevitably get a cancellation of your menu buffer. So you roll. That's what it looks like when you mess it up. It's not an exact science, but you press one immediately after another. What you don't want to do, you don't want to immediately start pressing the direction you want to go. You want to make sure your buffer is holding. Like there, if I was going forward, I would have triggered that cutscene. You know, make sure your buffer holds any day now, and then you start your input. $18 is what I like to do, and that puts you just on the other side of the trigger for said fight, and you can continue on, and you don't have to fight present gauge at all. That's the biggest skip of the entire game, and it's really quick immediately afterwards. You skip this scene and you can go straight and fight Plant Brain. I didn't have a save for me to replay this, so I'm borrowing it from one of my runs. All you have to do is line up Sid kind of center to the rook, and then do a hop in 3/4, to line up properly, and then 10 or so buffers is all you need to get past the trigger. Here in Disc 4 is the next cluster of skips that are most vital to the game. If done correctly, you don't have to fight any of the guardians. You're able to skip them all. It takes a little bit of practice to find the exact spot in which you start your buffer. I like to play it safe. This is a pretty safe spot to do it. You can see Zidane's head is just on the outside of, I don't know if my mouse is, yeah, you can see he's just on the outside of this moon or sun, whatever it is. And again, you don't press a direction first, you just roll. And then you start pressing. I counted 35 buffers there. The amount of buffers that you choose to input is going to be based on how close to that starting position you are. And I can't prove it one way or the other, but the amount of buffers that you're able or you have to do in order to get past a particular trigger for a fight changes depending on how in tune you are with your buffer, whether you have it pressed at the exact right amount of time so you're getting just the smidgenest amount of time to where you can move, or it's looser and maybe you can travel further. I do believe that the window of movement can be extended beyond more than just one frame. It takes playing with, test with your own setups, test the position, test the frame buffers. If your numbers aren't matching mine, that's okay, they can be worked around. This is the next one that we skip just because it's kind of lengthy. I line up pretty much parallel where Zidane's feet are right at the start of the stairs, and again we roll. Might help if I click it. And again we roll. I got 15 from that position. There are several places during the course of the run that you can skip things. It's just usually not optimal to, in my opinion. So here, we kind of want him to be right at the top of those stairs. You see the railing on the left? You kind of want his waist to be even there. Again, the numbers that I'm using are not necessarily the numbers that you'll need to use, but that was 30 for me from that particular spot. This video is going to get edited so much. I bumble along so much. It's real frustrating. So this is, in my opinion, the hardest one to do. Just because it's hard to remember where the trigger is. I like walking up to right here, where this, if you eclipse this, I think with this whole body is where the actual trigger point is. So I walk directly past this, the shiniest block, if you will, the shiniest block. That's 30. I'm not certain. Okay, so 30 will get you there as well. It's starting to sound like there's a magic number. So this one is a little tricky. You think that you're going to be a lot closer than you are. You can cross the middle, and you're pretty much halfway between this black dot and where this white line here starts. You can get a lot closer than you think, but still don't get too close. And again, for the closer for the camera, hit the trigger, and then you want to roll. And you skip past ledge completely. One important thing to note about this particular part of the screen is you can just instantly walk backwards, and you can come and grab the Excalibur. So you don't have to miss the Excalibur just because you're skipping the boss. And then the last major thing that you can skip in the game is going to be the fight with death guys, and it's using the same principles that we've talked about before. You just line up proper, which is kind of like, I'm afraid if I take one more step further here, it won't work. So I line up on the darker crystal here before it gets to the light crystal. That's where I start. And you skip right past death guys and go straight to Transkuja. Now, in general, you can take these positionings, and you can take these death guys was around 20 in that example, and you can try them yourself. It can vary. It can definitely vary. So just, if my numbers work for you, do that. If not, piddle with it. See if you can get it down in less. Maybe you might be able to. I try to do this as safely as possible, because the time that it takes for you to menu past all of these, if you screw it up and end up getting the encounter, you're out all the time of the buffer and the time to go back into the game and redo the buffer. So it's all about finding your risk versus reward. How safe do you want to be when you're going through with this? Prison Cage, Hedgehog minigame, the entirety of Disc 4, for the most part. Those are the ones I would recommend showcased here, that I would recommend at least if you're a beginner. There are some, like you can skip the Alexandria cage. You can skip that coming up, but it's something I don't do, and it's very, very prone to crashing. You can soft lock your game if you get caught inside the gate. So it's again a risk versus reward thing. But anyway, I hope that explained how to do the menu buffering in Final Fantasy IX. If you have any questions, you can comment here or reach out to me in Discord or Twitter or whatever, and I'll be happy to point you in the right direction if I can't help. Thank you for watching.